All right, let me share my screen. Let me know, guys, once you can see my screen. Let us start with the first module, the basics. So today, let's go and understand a bit about the history of Workday, how it got started, and who started it. All right. Workday is a cloud uh, ERP software that provides HR and finance solutions for small, medium, and large businesses. So the way it was started by Dave Duffield and Anil Bushri, and both of them they were the founders of PeopleSoft. So many of you might have already heard about PeopleSoft. Before, right now you might be seeing that there is a lot of work they there's a lot of work they and SAP success factors openings. But before these cloud technologies, the ERP systems that was majorly used by a lot of corporates were PeopleSoft and SAP. So what happened was, um, PeopleSoft got acquired by Oracle. So Oracle went ahead and acquired PeopleSoft, and what Oracle did was, um, Oracle slowly started decommissioning PeopleSoft. So in a way, they purchased PeopleSoft and tried to kill the market for PeopleSoft. And um, Anil Bushri and the founders of PeopleSoft, they quit Oracle. I mean, so when Oracle acquired PeopleSoft, they were automatically part of Oracle. So they quit Oracle, and then they met at a coffee shop. So after a few years, they met at a coffee shop, and then they thought about, let's go ahead and start a cloud ERP system. So that, and they designed the discussion and the designing, everything happened at a coffee shop on a napkin. And then they went ahead, they built a team, and then they started Workday. And when they started Workday, they were primarily targeting Workday for small and medium business. So companies which have less number of employees, they were targeting an ERP software for these companies. Now it made sense at that point because, um, during initially when we had SAP, when we had PeopleSoft, like I said yesterday, even for small companies, if you want to implement these systems, you have to purchase big servers, regardless of the size of the company. So even if you are 500 employees or you are 50,000 employees, you have to purchase the same size server, which meant that you will not be potentially using the complete capabilities or the complete space on your server. So it was a big waste of money, for especially for small and medium businesses which did not have as many employees as they want to, as many employees to utilize the entire server space and utilize the systems to the full extent. So with this in mind, Workday was born especially to cater to those population of companies, or those set of organizations that were small and medium, meaning companies that have 500 to 2000 3000 employees, which were considered as a small and medium businesses. Even today, 50% of the, or more than 50% of the customers that use Workday have less than 1000 employees. So even today, that is the case. So majorly it is supported, majorly it is used by small and medium business. But what happened was, as Workday kept growing and Workday started adding more and more modules and more features, a lot of big Fortune 500 companies also took Workday as their ERP. They moved from the traditional server-based ERP systems to cloud-based ERP systems. A lot of these changes is because, there is a lot of time, as well as there is a lot of money that can be saved when you are moving to a cloud-based ERP, because you are paying for the number of employees that are currently hired in the system. So if you have like 5,000 employees, you are just paying for that 5,000 employees in Workday. So Workday is a paper employee subscription based system, and there are a lot of other subscription plans within Workday, but it is mostly paper employee. It's not a blanket plan for all the customers. So that's how Workday started. They came up with a plan. They founded it in 2005. In 2008, Workday really took off, and since then, a lot of Fortune 500 companies uh, have opted for Workday as their ERP system. Some of the top companies that are currently using Workday are that you might be knowing is Google is using Workday, Facebook uses Workday, Amazon uses Workday, General Electric uses Workday, Zoom uses Workday. So a lot of Netflix uses Workday. So a lot of companies, especially a lot of companies that are the FANG company like Apple uses Workday. So all these companies are using Workday as their ERP system. They have chosen Workday as their ERP system. So this is about the entire whatever I just discussed. Now another good thing about these companies choosing Workday as ERP is once and during the implementation. So once the implementation is done, there is opportunities. I mean, you have to keep on supporting the system, right? Now, the thing about Workday is Workday provides biannual updates. I mean, if you don't already know about this, and this is one of the reasons there is a certification in Workday. So Workday will give you on Workday is always pushing updates. I mean, new features, new way of doing things, enhancements every year. It pushes this twice in a year. So there is a refresh or a there is a release cycle in Workday. So every year in the month of so now in the month of March, so basically right now the 2024 release one cycle is going on. So in the month of March there are new features that will be added to your tenants. In the month of August, September, there will be release two when there will be new features that will be added to your tenants again. So in a year, Workday sends these features or these enhancements twice in a year. Now, having a cloud system is more easy to push these updates because Workday can push these since it is cloud. Workday can refresh every Workday customers tenants with these new enhancements and features at the same time rather than the customers having to update it by themselves. And because of all these benefits of using Workday, a lot of companies have opted for Workday as their primary ERP system. Now Workday provides ERP planning solutions and provides support for handling your human capital, payroll, financials, and student management capabilities. So it can be used by technology companies, it can be used by healthcare companies, it can be used by industries like banking, healthcare, technology. It can also be used by universities. So we have a separate module called Workday Student, where you can the universities can implement Workday. It can pay their teachers. It can create student accounts. So a lot of possibilities are also there for universities, and there are a lot of universities. There's a lot of famous universities which have opted to use Workday as their ERP. Just going through what are these. We have already discussed most of this yesterday, so I just don't want to repeat it. So, okay, let's talk about integrations in Workday. So, Workday has two, let's say, Workday consultants are primarily divided into two types. One is functional consultants, and then we have integration consultants. So functional consultants are those who will be working on the functional aspects. When I say they will be working on configuring the Workday system, basically whatever requirements the client will have, they will do this configuration within the Workday environment. And let's say the client has certain third party systems, or they have access to, or they have subscribed to any third party systems, uh, which they are currently using, and they would like to continue using those systems. However, they also want to integrate those systems with Workday. For example, let's take payroll for example. Workday currently supports payroll for only 5 countries, as we discussed. It is just USA, UK, Canada, Spain, and Australia. So these are the only countries for which Workday currently supports payroll. So let's say the client is, let's say a global client like Google or let's say Facebook. They have offices in multiple countries across the globe. It's not just these 5 countries. So they still want to continue paying their employees, and they might still want to continue with their existing vendor. There will be cases where certain vendors will be available only for certain countries. So in those cases, Workday, the client still wants to continue using their existing payroll service provider, but they also want to use Workday. So the compensation data, like what will be the pay of the employees, that should be still coming from Workday, because Workday is the HR system, right? So you will be maintaining the payment information in Workday. Let's say the employee just hired, you are providing like any stock grants, or you are the new employee who is joining, you should be paying that new employee automatically. If an existing employee had a promotion and had a salary increase, or got like a one-time spot award, you should be making those payments. So all these payments should automatically flow from Workday to your payroll system. So in order to do that, there will be an integration that will be done between Workday and this third party system. And this will be done by the integration consultants. So integration consultants will be primarily tasked with the activity of integrating with third party vendors and third party systems, and they will be working on maintaining these integrations. Whereas the functional consultants will be working on the functional configuration, basically configuring everything within Workday. So these are the two streams, like I can say, basically two, how can I put this? You can either choose to be a functional consultant, or you can choose to be a integration consultant. Now there are people who do both functional and integration work. They are called as techno-functional consultant. Even though they are a techno-functional consultant, their primary skill will be either towards leaning towards functional or a bit towards integration. But I have rarely seen anyone who is like a proper techno-functional, like who excels in both integrations as well as the functional part of it. And there are certainly people in the world who does that. However, it is not a requirement, or it is not an expectations. Generally a functional consultant is only dealing with all the functional part of it, whereas an integration consultant is only dealing with the integrations only. If I talk about myself, I'm a functional consultant, and I only work as a functional consultant. I never got an opportunity, I can say, to work on integration. So I have never worked on integrations before in my last 10 years of my career, and it has not affected me in any way. So you can also choose, and the course that I'll be teaching is primarily for functional consultants. So you can choose to be a functional consultant. Even that is a very good career path. However, if you think that you like a bit of coding and you like to do these integrations, and you're interested in pursuing integrations as a career path, you can also opt in. You can start learning the Workday integrations, Workday Studio integrations, different types of integrations, and then you can become an integrations consultant. From a opportunity perspective, you have opportunities for both, meaning both functional consultants as well as integration consultants are in demand. So I'll put it this way: any project, any client will require both functional as well as integration consultant. Now, for integration, there is no specific module, meaning if you are integration consultant, you'll be working on all types of integration. You should be able to work on any type of integration. Whereas in functional consultants, they have like there will be HCM consultant, there will be time and absence consultant. So basically, consultants who specialize in a specific module of Workday. And if you go and look for Workday jobs in LinkedIn or anywhere in Google, you will specifically find the clients or the companies listing out the modules that they want the candidates who are applying to have knowledge about. So if you are functional consultant, you might be interested, or they might be looking for a certain expertise in certain modules or one module, whereas an integration consultant don't have a specific module. They will be working on all types of integration. Now, having said that, now there are different types of integration. Sometimes there will be a specific requirement saying that, hey, I want the integration consultant to have experience working with PG Pico integrations. Basically, those are payroll integrations. I need someone with experience in benefit integrations. So clients sometimes they do specifically mention the type of integrations, or they want experience with studio integrations. So customers sometimes do mention the specific type of integration consultant that they want, but for the most part, it will be somebody who has worked on any kind of integration. They are good to work as an integration consultant. So that's a brief history of Workday, who started, how it started, and what are the companies that use Workday, what are some of the features of Workday. Let's move on to the next topic, the business core structure. So, a business organogram. Let's talk about the organization structure. Some of you have been in corporate from a long time, so you know how an organization is structured, right? So you will have like the topmost person will be your CEO. Then you will have a chief of staff who will be reporting to the CEO. There will be a chief of staff. Under those chief, there will be a lot of managers. If it's a big company, there will be a lot of there will be different department managers, or different directors from different departments. Under those directors, there will be multiple senior managers. Under those senior managers will be managers, and under them there will be individual contributors and team leads. So this is how generally most organizations are structured. So, and if you a business organogram is basically an graphical representation of this entire structure. So when you will be working on a Workday implementation, you will be requesting your customers to provide you with a business organogram. So basically, you will be asking them or helping them understand like what is your current organization structure, and um, the business organogram will help you understand or give you a graphical representation of that specific structure, and you will be implementing that structure in Workday. But even to start with the implementation, you should first understand what is how the particular structure looks like, how many managers are there, so that you know how many organizations you'll have to create in Workday, how many people you'll be hiring in Workday, and how many managers you'll be hiring, so that you will create that reporting capabilities like this. These people report to this specific manager. So a business organogram will be giving you that organizational chart, and is a graphical representation of the company structure, and it will show a relationship between the relative ranks of different parts and different positions. So who reports to which position, who is holding which position, all that you will find in business organogram. Now, when we talk about the business organogram, in a company, there will be different types of organizations. So when I use the term organizations, you will have departments. You will have different um, you'll have like a sales department, you will have marketing department, you will have customer service department. So there can be multiple departments, there can be multiple divisions within the organization structure. So this business organogram will be providing you with all those specific details, like this is how the structure of my company looks like, and this is the top most organization, and in the top organization we have these many employees who are like who belong to the leadership. So basically you will have CEO and the chief of staff in the topmost organizations, and as we navigate down the hierarchy, you will see that you have different divisions and different departments for each of these different verticals in the organization. So if it's a manufacturing company, you will have different verticals like production, manufacturing. Then you have a separate department for sales and marketing. You have a separate department for customer support. So there will be different departments that will be created, that's already there within an organization. You'll be creating these different departments at different organizations within the Workday tenant and the Workday system, and then you will label each of these departments differently. And in these departments you will again be creating sub departments. So if it is sales and marketing, you'll create a separate department for sales, a separate department for marketing. Even within sales, if you want to further bifurcate, you can also bifurcate and create separate organizations and separate divisions within the different departments. And all this we can do in Workday, and I will be we'll be discussing and we'll be seeing this all live starting next week. So this week I'm just giving you an overview of what are some of the possibilities and going to some of the very basic fundamental topics of Workday. So in Workday, the business organization structure refers to the hierarchy of arrangement of business units, departments, teams, and positions within the organization. And it is a key feature of Workday HCM suite that allows organizations to model their structure and manage their workers and in more organized and streamlined manner. So basically, um, you will be able to create these structures in Workday, and it allows the organizations to easily manage the positions. So once these structures are created, you know exactly that the customer knows exactly in which particular structure you have to create a position, in which one of these departments you need to hire an employee. They can also report saying that report on top of it, meaning they can report on how many employees are currently there in sales and marketing, how many employees were hired recently this month. So what is the head count? So every month, what is the head count? Is it going up or is it going down? Is there a lot of attrition? So um, they can do all these reporting and analytics within the Workday once things are configured. So a business organogram or the organization structure will help you with designing the initial skeleton of how the reporting looks like within your organization. Let's talk about Workday's architecture fundamentals. Okay, let's talk about the multi-tenant. Now, like I explained yesterday, a tenant is basically an instance of Workday, meaning it's like a copy. Let's take an ERP system, or to explain you better, uh, let's consider Facebook account, your Facebook account. Okay, and if you copy that same Facebook account multiple times, so you say you have 10 different accounts, the same account, but you just have 10 different versions of it, or 3 or 4 different versions of it. Now all these are same accounts. However, if you when you have multiple versions, let's say you added a new post today, that might not be reflecting in the other account. So there will now, even though when you are starting with the same account, whenever you are making different changes in different accounts, those will not be automatically reflecting in every account, because all these accounts are now individual accounts. Similarly, in Workday, if you think about a concept like that, it's a multi-tenanted system, meaning you can have multiple tenants for the same instance. So let's say the company went live with Workday, and when they go live, they will be getting 3 tenants, actually 4 tenants they will be getting. One is their production tenant. The production tenant is where the customers, all the employees will be using the production tenant. So the employees, all the actual transactions that will be happening will all happen in the production tenant. Now you will also have a sandbox tenant in Workday. The sandbox tenant is a tenant that is a copy of production, and this sandbox tenant will refresh every week, meaning uh, on Monday, the sandbox tenant will be a fresh copy of production. When I say copy of production, whatever data is there in production, it will automatically copy all that into the sandbox tenant. So basically, whatever you have in production, all those latest transactions. When I say transactions, let's say you have hired an employee on Friday, you will see that employee in Sandbox as well, because it is a fresh copy of the production environment. Now, as you go towards the week, like from Monday to Friday, uh, whatever changes that you do in the production will not reflect in the Sandbox, because the Sandbox tenant will refresh every week. After Friday, on Saturday, the Sandbox tenant gets refreshed with again a fresh copy of production. Meaning, now why this is helpful is, let's say you are a consultant working on a project supporting your customer. Eh, if there is any changes, anything that you have to configure and test. So whenever you are moving changes, or whenever you are adding new features into Workday, you will have to first configure it and test it and get approvals before you move it to the production. Now you will be doing all these testing and all these configurations and testing these enhancements in the lower tenants, meaning you will not be doing it in production tenant. So if you have to test any latest transactions, so you just, there was a new hire but there was some problem with the new hire, you'll be doing these testing in the Sandbox tenant, because that is where the latest transactions will be available. So you'll configure those fixes in the Sandbox tenant, and then you will get the client to test it. So you will test it, you will do unit testing, the client does the user acceptance testing, they will test it, and once the test is confirmed, they will ask to move these changes to production. And if you forget to move those changes, or if you don't complete, or if you don't document those changes, as of Monday, whatever changes that you did in the Sandbox will again be wiped out, because it will again be a fresh copy of production. So Sandbox tenant will have a refresh cycle of every week. Okay. Now coming to, there will be another tenant as well that will be provided called as implementation tenant. So Sandbox tenant has a refresh cycle of week, and the implementation tenant that will be given to the customer will have a refresh cycle of every that refresh cycle. Usually most customers refresh it on a quarterly basis, meaning every 3 months they refresh it. However, there is no caveat saying that it should refresh in 3 months only. You can refresh it every week, every month. It depends on the customer to customer. So some customers would like to refresh it on a monthly basis, some customers will refresh it on a quarterly basis. And the way you refresh is, you'll create a request with Workday and ask the Workday to go ahead and refresh this tenant. So these are the three tenants that will be given to every Workday customer at the time of go live. So whenever they go live with a new Workday system or a new Workday implementation, Workday will provide these tenants by default as a part of the subscription to all the customers. So Workday is a multi-tenanted system, meaning that every single instance serves, one instance will serve as multiple clients or multiple systems for the customer. Now, this allows for a very cost-effective delivery of software that ensures that each tenant has access and latest updates and features. Like I said, since this is all centrally managed from the cloud, it's easy to push updates into these tenants by Workday. So let's say there is a problem within Workday system, and then you have to fix it. Workday can fix this problem for all the customers on a weekly refresh. So meaning on a Saturday, they can push these updates to all the Workday customers, so that by Monday they will again see that problem's gone. Now, when it comes to traditional softwares like PeopleSoft or SAP, what they do is they usually publish that, hey, these are some of the problems that is going on, and these are the steps to fix these problems. Now it is for the company to go through those fixes and apply those fixes by themselves in their systems, whereas when it comes to Workday will automatically make those fixes for all these for all their Workday's customers. Any questions on the multi-tenant? This multi-tenant will start making more sense as we progress through the course. It might sound a little confusing as I'm just explaining these things from a slide. Um, we will be having access to the tenants soon, so I can show you live what how it is and how it happens. Okay. Any questions here?
Yeah, Nikhil, I had a question. So these tenants that you're talking about, right? Is it more like a environment, like a production environment and a sandbox environment? Is
Yes,
that what
yes,
it is?
yes, yes.
Okay. So we'll also have a dev environment for us to push the signal, for us to
Um,
make.
yeah. That's what. So the development environment is what. So if you're coming from a let's say SAP background, you call it as development system, sandbox, development and production, right? Production, sandbox, and development. That is what you call it.
Correct.
In Workday, we call it as production, sandbox, and implementation tenants. So,
Implementation is basically
impl-
the dev.
yes, implementation is a
Okay.
development tenant. Sandbox is the sandbox, and production is the production. Now, the refresh cycle for these are different. Meaning, implementation tenants will only refresh when we request a refresh. Meaning, once you refresh implementation with a copy of production, you can keep using implementation, but it will not start having all the latest transaction that will happen in production every week. So you have to request a refresh. Now there are different reasons why we have implementation, why we have sandbox, and different refresh cycles. I will explain that in the future. However, just understand that sandbox tenant will refresh with a copy of production every week, meaning all the changes in production will automatically copy over to sandbox on a Saturday. Whereas in implementation environment, you have to create a ticket with Workday and ask them to, hey, you know what, on this day, this time, go ahead and start refreshing my implementation tenant with a copy of production, and it will go and refresh and update it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry if I'm asking this question again. This is regarding the refresh. So the standard refresh, it happens every week or every quarter?
Every week. So the
Every week.
standard refresh. So production doesn't refresh because that is production. It doesn't have to refresh.
Yeah.
Uh, every now the workday goes on a maintenance every Saturday, meaning
Okay.
Saturday for a 4 hour time, for a 4 hour time block.
Mm-hmm.
Workday will shut down all their tenants. Basically, you will not be able to access Workday because it goes on a regular tenant maintenance. So there
Mm-hmm.
will be certain programs that Workday run in the background that will make
Mm-hmm.
sure that all the Workday systems are currently updated and it doesn't have any bugs. Additionally, if there are any fixes or any service updates that Workday has to make, it will make it on a Saturday. So during Saturday, for a 4 to 6 hour time block, uh, you will not be able to access the system, and even you will see this. So you will also be getting the access to the tenants. If you try to access these tenants on a Saturday, you will not be able to access it, and that is one of the reasons we don't have classes on Saturday. But this is just a 4 to 6 hour time block during which
Mm-hmm.
this service update happens. Once that happens,
Mm-hmm.
the tenants will be online. So the sandbox environment, this
Mm-hmm.
will, so all the tenants, all tenants in the world. So there are 10,000, more than 10,000 customers using Workday. These
Mm-hmm.
entire 10,000 customers on a Saturday, their tenants will go offline in go into maintenance. And once the maintenance is done, you will see that the sandbox tenant will have a fresh copy of production.
Mm-hmm.
So sandbox will refresh every week. Every Saturday it refreshes, and on from starting from Sunday, basically from Sunday, you will have a fresh copy of production in sandbox, meaning the sandbox will be equal to production. Now from Monday to Friday, whatever changes that happens in production will not reflect in sandbox because there is no direct connection. Like, it will not automatically update. And whatever changes you make in sandbox will not be seen in production because again there is no connection between these tenants. Again on a Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
uh, sandbox will again be updated with production. So whatever changes you made in sandbox, it will all be wiped out. Okay.
Okay. So are there any exceptions, like if you request any
You can
hot
request.
fix? Okay. Okay.
You can request exceptions up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
On a like a So let's say up to 2 weeks, in the sense you can request a exception this week. You can request an exception next week. After
Mm-hmm.
that you cannot request because you can only do it for consecutively 2 weeks. So
Okay.
that's the max amount of time that Workday allows an exception. Workday allows up to 2 weeks of exception, refresh exemption basically. So let's say you have certain some important configuration in the sandbox which you don't want to lose,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not even tested yet. You can
Mm-hmm.
request an exemption. Now this is where the implementation tenant comes into picture. So let's say you have certain features that you want to configure and test, and it's not a 1 week work. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
let's say it's a big enhancement, it's a big change, requires a lot of brainstorming, lot of configuration, and then testing. Multiple parties need to review and sign off. Multiple, so there might be a lot of impacts to different other modules as well. So all the module owners should review the config and sign off saying that there is no changes to the existing config. Nothing existing is going to break because of this enhancement. It might be more than a week work. Maybe it's a 2 month or maybe 1 month of work or a few weeks of work. So
Mm-hmm.
these changes or these configurations you will do in implementation, because implementation will not refresh.
Mm-hmm.
It will not automatically refresh with the copy of production. And when it
Okay.
doesn't happen, that means whatever change or whatever configs you are doing in implementation, it is still going to remain in that tenant
Mm-hmm.
for a longer period of time. So that is the reason we have these three different tenants. One will be a sandbox tenant, then there is a implementation tenant. Now, depending upon the scenario, you will be using these different tenant to do the config and testing. For example, for instance, let's say like the example I just gave you, you have certain problems with the latest hire. So when you hired the employee, let's say um, one of the recruiters are coming to you and saying that the offer letter that we generated, it is showing the salary amount as incorrect, whereas I can see that we have provided the right salary. So
Mm-hmm.
why it is incorrect? Now now when you are looking for this latest transaction, you will not find this in implementation, because implementation doesn't refresh. Whereas if you wait for a few days, you will find, or you will find this error in sandbox as well, because now production got updated with sandbox. Now you will make those fixes in sandbox and test it on the same new hire employee to make sure that this is working, but you will not be able to test it in implementation because that employee doesn't exist in implementation. However, that employee will exist in the sandbox environment because sandbox got refreshed with a copy of production on a Saturday. So it
Okay.
depends upon which changes, what kind of fixes will be tested and configured in which tenant, and or which environment, and in what scenario. Okay, so that's how Workday works. Now let's say you have to do a big change, and but that those changes or those configurations might require more than a week. So what you will do is you'll request a refresh with Workday in implementation. You'll say that, all right, I think it is time for us to refresh implementation tenant with a copy of production. And then you will raise a request. You will say that on this particular day, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Sunday, you'll just mention on this day or at this particular time, you can initiate a refresh. You can also mention which tenant you want to refresh it from. So a
Mm-hmm.
customer can have more than one implementation tenant. So at the
Mm-hmm.
time of go live, the Workday will provide them with a production tenant. So three tenants: one production, one sandbox, and one implementation. Now
Mm-hmm.
the customers can choose to purchase additional tenants. So they can choose to purchase. It depends upon their budget. Some customers who have a lot of budgets and who have a lot of projects that are running in parallel, they might buy a few more implementation tenants. Like they will have 5 or 6 implementation tenants. For example, let us consider Amazon as one of the Amazon is one of the Workday customer. So
Mm-hmm.
Amazon might have Amazon 1, Amazon 2, Amazon 3, Amazon 4. These four are implementation tenants. Then they have Amazon Sandbox and Amazon Production.
Mm-hmm.
So Workday customer will have to pay for these additional tenants, and there will be a subscription plan of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And as the subscription comes to an end, the customer can either choose to not pay any more subscription fee. Basically, what happens is it will expire. Once
Mm-hmm.
the tenant expires, it is gone. Or you can continue subscribing to that additional tenant and then you can use it. Now, some customers who have a lot of projects going in parallel, they might want to use different tenants for it. So, and at the time of using these tenants, let's say, hey, I want a fresh copy of production so that I can make whatever changes I make is more latest. So they will decide, okay, now I think Amazon 3 tenant, which is an implementation tenant, I would like to refresh this tenant. I will create a case with Workday. I'll go into the tenant management. There is a separate portal for tenant management, and only certain admins will be given that access. So I'll go there. I will enter saying that, hey, I want to refresh the tenant. I will provide them with the source tenant, saying that I want Amazon 3 to be refreshed. That is the source tenant. Sorry, that is the target tenant, the tenant that I need to refresh. Now, from which tenant I want to refresh? What is the source? I can use production as a source, or I can also use any tenant as a matter of fact as a source, except for sandbox. So meaning, let's say you have 3 implementation tenant, you can copy the changes between these implementation tenants as well. So you can say that implementation 1 should be a copy of implementation 3. So now implementation 1 and 3 will have similar or exact copy of configs. Now whatever changes you want to do in this individual tenants is up to you. So it depends upon projects. It depends upon and you have to. There is no logic to it. It is all like how you want to manage your projects, and based on that you will decide what to do. Should you refresh it? Should you not refresh it? Should you continue using it? Otherwise, if there are no major projects, if you're just handling the regular business as usual tickets, a general thumb rule is every 3 months, every quarter, you refresh your implementation tenant. Otherwise, some now it depends upon some customers might not refresh every quarter. They might refresh half yearly, or they might refresh. So there is no specific schedule set in. I mean, they might refresh on a need basis, saying that, hey, now it is time to refresh it. Let's refresh it. There is no specific schedule. Some customers do follow a very strict schedule. Um, One of the customers that I know that follow a very strict schedule of refresh cycles is IBM. IBM follows a very strict refresh schedule for their implementation tenants. So they have like a day calendar published saying that, hey, this day you will be seeing refresh. There will be communications sent saying that, hey, we are going to refresh. If there is any configurations that you're working on in implementation tenant, go ahead and start documenting it, because once the refresh is done, you will lose it. So we document it, and then you have to reconfigure it in implementation if that is not in any other tenant. So it depends on client to client. I hope I now gave you a very clear picture of what this multi-tenant and and this refresh that we are talking about.
Basically, as an exception, you can request early refresh, and you can also delay the refresh. Okay.
Early refresh, you cannot request an early refresh for sandbox. Sandbox has a fixed refresh cycle every week. All the other tenants you can do on an ad hoc need basis.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Nikhil, so there would be a downtime of couple of hours every week for Sandbox, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Even for production.
Even for right. Okay.
So that it's not downtime. It's we generally call it a tenant maintenance time.
Okay.
So when you try to access it, it will say the tenant is under maintenance. So when you get a tenant access, you can try accessing the tenant on a Friday. You'll see that message. It will show you a page saying that the tenant maintenance activity ongoing from this time to this time, and it will have a few information around it. So that's how Workday works.
So that means for every company there is different instances it will be there, na sir. So
yes,
every organization, every sandbox tenant means there is a lot of tenants which should be replaced, right? Automatically.
If there will be only one sandbox. There won't be multiple sandbox. No.
Okay, that means for every organization there should be one sandbox.
Only one sandbox. Yes.
Okay.
It's not there should be. It's more like there will only be one sandbox.
So upon one sandbox instance, there is a customization will be happened, right?
based on client requirement.
Can you
Yeah,
repeat the question?
yeah. But that means you are saying there will be one sandbox only. You are saying so,
Uh-huh.
but company's requirement may be different, right? Like fields, there is some procedures. Everything should be different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in this one, if it is every organization, it will be one sandbox. So there is a conflict will be there, right? Because company to
Oh,
company.
no. If every companies will have their own sandbox. They won't be sharing the sandbox. Of course, they
Yeah.
won't be sharing it.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that is the question. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. They will have their own tenants. It will be different. So Amazon and Facebook are not sharing their Workday tenants. No,
Yes, 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 yes.
it will. They will have their own versions. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Okay. So I'll also give you a brief about how, in general, how Workday implementation happens. So I'll just see. You can always go through these presentations. I usually don't like using PowerPoint presentations. Tomorrow I will use a Blackboard to explain things. Today I did not have the software installed on this laptop. So from tomorrow I will mostly be using a Blackboard and I will write on that Blackboard so that I can easily explain you different things. Um, you will always have access to these PowerPoint presentations in your LMS. Once the classes are over, you can always go back and refer to these PPT presentations. Since today I don't have my Blackboard, I have to. I'm just using these PPTs, but I don't use PPTs as much, and I'll be using more of a hands-on approach when I'm teaching it. Even when we have the tenant access, I'll be teaching everything from the tenant directly instead of using a PowerPoint presentation to explain it. However, you have access whatever is in that PowerPoint presentation. I will be teaching you. You can just go back and refer once the classes are done. All right. So, having said that, let us discuss about how the implementation. What is the implementation methodology for Workday? Now, there are different methodologies, meaning nowadays a lot of companies are doing. I mean, there is this sprints going on. Uh, Before it used to be a waterfall model, meaning you will take the requirements from the customer, you will configure the entire tenant and unit test it, and then you will ask the customer to test it by themselves. Any changes that they request, there will be a second cycle of config, meaning if there was any changes that are required, they will reconfigure those and then move towards a second refresh cycle or move it to a second sprint. So basically before it used to be a waterfall model where everything that client wants will be configured and tested, and any changes that are required, again this will be reiterated like two to three times until you get the complete configuration done. Nowadays we are following a system called as sprint planning. So what is sprint basically? You will take, let's say there are 100 things that you want to configure or you want to configure and test. You will be doing it in sprints of 10. So you will take 10 problems, you will configure it, you will test it, you will deploy it, and then you will tackle the next 10. You will not tackle all 100 at the same time. And this particular type of planning, sprint planning, which is like the latest project management technique, um, has been followed across all the implementations, and even post implementation, if there is any enhancements planned, most companies use sprint planning to do this. Now, when you are doing an implementation of Workday, there are certain stages in which this implementation will be done. The very first stage is requirement gathering. So when you approach a customer freshly for an implementation, first thing that you will do is you will give them a design session. So the design sessions are when you will be showcasing the tenant capabilities or the Workday's capabilities. Hey, these are the features in Workday. This is how you do this in Workday. This is how you do that in Workday. So basically you will be doing how to hire an employee in Workday. You'll be showing how does a promotion work in Workday, how does a transfer work in Workday. So there are different features in every module, like HCM for the HCM team, you will be showing all the HCM capabilities. If there is a separate team who handles the compensation of the workers, you will be showing them the specific compensation design, like how compensation works in Workday, what are the different compensation plans available in Workday, what are the different ways we can configure these plans. So there will be a design session that you will take for that company, um, for different departments of the company. And in a company, even in HR department, there will be a different department who will be handling the employee compensation. There will be a different department that will be doing payroll configuration. So you will be taking design sessions for each of these departments. Once the design sessions are complete, the clients now know that okay, these are the different capabilities of Workday. If they have any questions at the time of design session, they will ask you those questions to clarify, like okay, these are the different um, these are the features that they want to adopt, and now these are the features that they are not sure if it will work for their company's certain processes. So you will have these discussions, and once these discussions are complete, you will be doing the requirements gathering. Meaning, now Workday provides certain templates. They call it as Workday's workbooks. So these templates, you will be sending these templates to the customers in order to collect the different requirements from them, basically. So HCM, there will be separate templates for HCM, there will be separate templates for compensation, there will be separate templates for payroll, for time. For every single module you will have these different templates which you will be sending to the customer, for them to fill the details in those templates. So this will be configuration requirements, and this is where you'll be working very closely with the client to understand their requirements and come up with the details in that requirement document. Once the requirements are finalized, you will go into sprint planning. Basically, you will have a list of items that needs to be configured. So if it's a very big project, you will have, like, let's say 700 to 800 different details that you have to configure for your client. Now different teams will pick up different details, and then there will be multiple sprints. You will decide how many sprints it will take to implement it. So it might be a 15 sprint or maybe 25 sprints. So each sprint will be about 2 weeks or 1 week. It will depend upon how you plan it. So you can say that every sprint will be 2 weeks, and for every sprint, this is what we are going to tackle. So in this sprint, we are going to deliver these many configurations, and once these configurations are delivered, the client will go through those configurations and test those configurations and sign off on that. Once the sign off is done, you will finalize those configs. Now again, the next set of configurations for the next 2 weeks. So this way you will be doing a sprint of 10, 15, 25, depending upon how big the client is, how many requirements the clients provide. Now once the sprints are done, you will be like, all these configurations will be tested and finalized. Now you will move all these configuration changes into one single tenant, and then you will be doing like a UAT testing, where you will select a few users from the customer's team, and then you will run all the processes. So now you have the configurations finalized, now you have the processes finalized. You will be doing some testing on some test data, and check if the processes and if the configurations are working correctly. Now once this is done, there will be data migration phase, where uh, there is a separate set of workbooks that you will be sending to the customer to collect the employee data. So right now, once before even using Workday, they are using their existing systems, right? They will have their employee data already in that system. Now you will have to move that data from their system into your system, and for that you will be giving them with certain templates which they have to fill. So they will be entering all the employee data in those specific templates, and then you will be moving the data from referring to those templates. You will be moving that data using different tools, migration tools, like you will be using EIBs or advanced loaders. You will move all that employee data from those templates into the Workday system. So once this data is moved into Workday, Now the client will do a second round of testing where they will test it with their existing employee data to make sure that things are looking correct, things are working as expected, all the processes that they want from Workday, all that is working. If there are any changes or if there is any errors that they encounter, again there will be a separate cycle to fix these errors. So we will be noting down all the errors. The client will start listing, okay, this is an error, this is an error. So they will maintain a list of errors that they came across, and the consultants will start looking at these errors and start fixing those errors. So once we have like a nil zero error, meaning all the requirements are complete, there is no errors that are currently there, and the configurations is all looking good. So once we get this UAT sign off, user acceptance testing sign off, you will ask the customer to let us migrate to production. So you will be doing a gold build. So this is what we call it, gold build. So basically when you are building the production tenant for go live, you call it as a gold build. So all the changes will be moved from the um, will be moved to the gold tenant. So we will determine, okay, this tenant is going to be the gold tenant. You will start moving the configurations into this gold tenant. You will load the data into this gold tenant. You will run validation reports and make sure all these reports are correctly validating, all the employee data is correctly entered. And once we get a sign off, we will go live with this implementation. So the gold tenant in which we moved all the latest data, we will say that, okay, now from now onwards, as of this date, this particular tenant is going to be the production tenant, and then Workday will automatically give you a copy of a sandbox tenant and an implementation tenant. Now this is usually how a implementation works. Now for you guys, this is an information that you need to remember when you are going to interviews. They might ask you, have you worked on implementation? Now it completely depends upon what you would like to say. Most of the times you will be moving or you will be interviewing for a company that is hiring you for an AMS project. The reason being, now Workday started somewhere in 2008. Now from 2008, in the last 10-15 years, most of the companies have already implemented Workday. It's not that there are no new implementations going on. There are certainly new implementations as well. However, nowadays the number of implementations have gone down significantly, and but there is a lot of AMS project, meaning ongoing support projects. Okay, so you might be working on an implementation, you might not be working on an implementation. However, this knowledge is important so that you know how an implementation is done in Workday. But mostly you will be working on an AMS project, working for a client who has already implemented Workday, and you will be part of their team that is doing ongoing support. And that is what you should also be targeting towards. And I'll tell you why. Working on a support project is more easier than working on an implementation at this point in time for you people, because Workday is already configured. You just have to do an additional enhancement, or if there is any bugs or any errors, you just have to fix it. So the configuration is already done. However, when it comes to an implementation, you will be also tasked with doing design sessions. So taking design sessions is equal to taking, like how I am teaching you, right? You will also be taking these kind of presentations to the clients, and mostly the client partners will be people from the HR departments of the clients, like people who are directors. There will be directors, there will be CHROs who will also be attending those meetings. So if you're not very confident, it will be difficult for you to take those design sessions. However, if you're working on an AMS project, it will be easy for you to still manage and start having some practice, or some hands-on experience on Workday before you move into an implementation role, if you want to move there. Now implementations are usually done by partner companies. Now there are two types of organizations which you will join. You will be either joining a partner company or you'll be joining a customer company. A partner company is an organization which will provide Workday implementation and support services to Workday customers. So let's say Facebook, Amazon, they all use Workday. There are around 24 to 30 partner companies in the world altogether. And I can let's list like Accenture, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, Cognizant. These are some of the partner companies who provide Workday implementation services. So if you are going to work as an implementation consultant, you should target joining these organizations because only these partner companies can implement Workday for a customer. However, there are now if you join a Workday customer, meaning you directly join Amazon or you directly join Facebook as a Workday consultant, you don't need to perform any kind of implementation, neither you need any kind of certification to work on Workday. Even without certification, you can join a customer company and then you can start helping or providing them Workday support. So there are two different types of organizations you'll be working, and then you can also work at a AMS partners firm. Basically, even without even these implementation firms, they also provide AMS support services. Like Accenture does provide a lot of AMS support to a lot of customers, Workday customers. Deloitte does provide it. KPMG provides. PwC provides. So these companies also provide AMS support, so you can join these companies and work on AMS projects. So basically, that might be your career path going forward. Once you complete the course, you will either be working as an AMS consultant or you'll be working as an implementation consultant. My suggestion will be to go ahead and look for an AMS role, which will be easier for you to start with while you are beginning with your career, and then if you are interested, you can slowly transition towards implementation.
So, Nikhil, which jobs are more AMS or
AMS.
implementation?
Nowadays, it's AMS because, like I said, a lot of companies have already implemented. The implementations have gone down a lot. Now it is mostly AMS. Any other questions?
Nikhil, the question on the templates that you're talking about. So these templates requiring for gathering the business requirements, right? Are they provided from the Workday itself, or
it is provided. You don't have to create it yourself. Workday provides it. So in Workday, whenever you start working as a Workday consultant, even if you are working as a customer from the customer side or you are working for a partner side, you will be given access to Workday community. So there is something called as a Workday community where you will find all the documentation for every module. So everything that you can do in Workday, there is a documentation available which you can refer from the community, and over there you will be able to find these templates that you need to implement. So it is all available in the community.
And the other one that I had was, you said that once the configuration changes are confirmed, before moving into the bridge, so once the employee data is mapped, right? So which environment is this?
Now at the time of implementation, there is no specific environment. At the time of implementation, all you have is different tenants. You are not labeling any tenant as production. You are not labeling any tenant as sandbox. Until go live, that doesn't happen. Now you call certain tenants, you will label different tenants as a gold tenant basically is a tenant where all the confirmed and all the proper config is there. No one will touch it unless you are moving changes. Meaning one tenant you will park aside to only move stuff that is working, and that you call it as gold tenant. Now once you move,
also used for UAT testing as well?
no, gold tenant you will just park config. You will refresh other tenants from the gold tenant, meaning you will request Workday to refresh another tenant with a copy of gold, but you will not touch anything in gold. Anything that you copy and then at the time of testing, if they see that there is an error that needs to be fixed, you will fix those errors and then you will only move that fix into gold.
So always there will be one tenant which you don't touch, you will only park the changes. And this is at the time of implementation, okay? Once the changes are configured, once the gold tenant is finalized, you will just say that Workday, it's time to flip the switch, make this as a production. Workday will make it as a production. So as of this, if you say that okay, you can go live this minute, it will take 10 minutes and it will say that okay, from now this is your production environment. That's how you go live. Any other questions? All right.